A biography, an autobiography, a memoir. What's the difference between all those things? Stay with me. Fantastic questions. And I've gotten this question from several people over the years of talking about life stories. So easy peasy. Biography is a life story, okay? Biography, life story. Easy. When you call it a biography, that means it's somebody's life story, but it's not written by the person. So just imagine somebody decides to write a life story for Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, who's been dead for a long time. Obviously, a new story about him is a biography because he's not alive to be writing his story. Somebody wants to write a life story for ex-President Jimmy Carter. He is no longer alive. So his story, anything written at this point, is a biography by definition because he is not alive and writing his story. Autobiography, auto for self. Autobiography means a person is writing their own life story. And here's an example. Becoming by the ex-US First Lady, Michelle Obama. She wrote her life story. It doesn't really matter if she had a ghostwriter or if she personally sat down and wrote every sentence. We know a lot of celebrities who are not gifted writers may use ghostwriters. I don't know. But the fact is, the story is told in her own voice. So whether or not she had help writing it, it is her writing her story. Okay? So this is often in the first person. I did this. I went there. That is a typical autobiography. So far, I've been talking about different forms of biographies. Biography, if it's written by somebody else for the person. Autobiography, if the person tells their story, okay? How about a memoir? A memoir is different. So autobiography, by virtue of being a life story that often goes from birth through childhood, through young adulthood, and so on and so forth, we often find people need to be somewhat grown up to write it, okay? I'm not sure how much of an autobiography you're gonna get out of a 22-year-old. They haven't lived long enough to write anything tangible, okay? But 40 and over, my personal philosophy, they can write autobiographies because they've lived a little bit. They've lived through childhood and young adulthood, and most are settled in a career. So that is enough to write an autobiography. And that's another difference between biography, autobiography on one side, and memoir on the other side. Now, a memoir focuses on a season in someone's life. It could be getting over an illness, okay? It could be training for a huge world event. So a 25-year-old athlete who becomes an Olympian, who goes to the Olympics, can write a memoir. They can write about training for, learning they qualified for the Olympics, going to the Olympics, competing at the Olympics, winning or not, coming home, and the aftermath. That is a memoir. A 20-something-year-old who had a very stressful illness or life event can write a memoir. It focuses on a season. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. Autobiography, you are writing your story for yourself, whether or not you're putting pen to paper or you have a ghostwriter, but it's in your words. Biography is your life story, but written by somebody else. And both auto and biographies are a chronological account, usually of life from birth all the way up to a certain time. And so people need to be old-ish to write it, okay, to have enough to write. Now, a memoir, an 18-year-old can write a memoir. It doesn't matter because it focuses on a particular season, which is often a challenge or an issue of triumph, right? Competing in a sport tournament or something big, or I don't know, something to do with educational training, some experience, okay, would make up a memoir. Is that helpful? I hope so. Let me know what you have interest in writing. Autobiography, biography, or memoir? If you like, let us know how old you are in the comments. I'll see you in my next video.